Hey everybody, and welcome to the next edition of the Soccer Fitness Goals video blog. Today on the blog we're going to be discussing a topic that has come up quite frequently to me in questions from parents of soccer players that I work with, from the soccer players themselves, as well as from my own staff and employees, and that is the topic of CrossFit, and specifically whether soccer players should participate in CrossFit workouts and training or not. So I'm not an expert in CrossFit, I have to admit that, but I have done quite a bit of reading about it, including looking into some of the recent scientific studies that have been published examining the effectiveness of CrossFit workouts as well as injury risk. And in looking at that information, plus my own opinion and my own knowledge base based on the amount of time that I've been doing this work in sports science, working with soccer players, there are two aspects or two things that I don't like about CrossFit. The first is the inattention that is paid to the exercise form for specific exercises that are done in the programs. And the second is the lack of periodization, and more specifically just than periodization, is the lack of any type of planning to do with the principle of overload, which is a fundamental principle of any type of exercise programming. Let's start by talking about the first thing that I don't like about CrossFit, which is the lack of attention that is paid to form when performing exercises. And what we'll do is we'll put up some clips from the Ultimate CrossFit Fails video, so you can have a look at this while I'm talking, and this will give you, a pretty good visual and paint the picture. Any type of exercise that involves resistance, and specifically some of the exercises you're seeing here, like Olympic lifts, power lifts like the deadlift and squat, as well as explosive movements like muscle-ups. Those are exercises where technique and form are very important, primarily to keep the exercise safe and prevent injury, but also to ensure that actual gains in strength and power are made. And of course, anybody who follows any type of exercise program, if they don't pay attention to form, they could get hurt. That's not a problem that's unique to CrossFit. But the issue with CrossFit is that the training and the certification courses that the instructors have to go to are very brief, sometimes being done in just a weekend. And so the standards in terms of the education and experience level of the trainers that work in CrossFit, those standards are very low. That, coupled with the fact that a lot of the workouts involve competitions between people to see how many repetitions of certain things they can complete. Also, competitions looking at how many repetitions you can complete in a certain amount of time. Things like that just don't lend themselves well to exercising with good form in general, and this is sort of just common sense, but if you think of performing any type of exercise, at some point, once you've performed enough repetitions and you've exhausted the body's energy stores for that exercise, your technique is going to start to go down. And that would be, in a normal science-based exercise program, that would be the time to stop. But again, with the programming in CrossFit, partly because of the lack of education of the trainers and partly because of the workouts themselves, that doesn't always happen. And what you get is the result, which is what we've seen here, which is basically exercises being performed with bad form and the risk of injury going way up. Now we can have a look at the second thing that I don't like about CrossFit, and that is the lack of planning, periodization, and specifically the complete ignorance of the principle of overload as it applies to the exercise programming. And so we'll start with the principle of overload. And the principle of overload states that in order to make gains in any aspect of fitness, and that includes gains in things like strength, power, speed, and endurance, exercise needs to progressively overload the body. And again, those are key words, progressively overload. Meaning, if you lift a certain weight for a certain number of repetitions one day, then in the next day or maybe the next week or 2 weeks, at some period of time later, you will progressively increase the weight. And these increases in weight have to be done, and potentially you, in addition to increasing the weight, you may also decrease the number of repetitions, and that goes into a little bit more the specificity of programming. But in general, these increases that happen in terms of the progressive overload, they're gradual, they're progressive. You may go, for example, with a squat exercise, you may go from squatting 100 pounds for 3 sets of 10 repetitions for a week or 2, and then progress to squatting 120 pounds for 3 sets of 10 repetitions. And what that does is that allows the body, the muscles, the bones, joints, and tendons to physiologically adapt to the load or the overload or the stress that it's being presented with. And that takes time. Those physiological adaptations certainly don't happen in the same day. They don't usually even happen in the same week. They take a few weeks. And that's why with planning and periodization under a program that would be more science-based, you won't see increases in load or intensity in every workout or in every day or progressive days. You'll see those increases happening progressively over time. One of the fundamental aspects of CrossFit is the WOD, or the workout of the day. And just by definition, it's completely ignoring any type of periodization, because workout of the day is literally just a hard or challenging workout that you have to complete in that day. Now, it may be a good workout, it may present a reasonable physiological stress to the body. It may make you tired, it may make you sweaty, it may make you want to throw up and give you the kind of layman's signs of a hard workout. But in terms of actually leading to any gain in any type of physical ability, there's no way that those workout of the days will do it, because they have not presented the body with a progressive overload. Just like the inattention to form, lack of progressive overload and just randomly performing challenging workouts day after day after day is also something that over time is going to significantly increase your risk of injury. So keeping those two aspects in mind, and again, those are the two things that I really don't like about CrossFit. 1, inattention to form, and 2, lack of planning and periodization. Keeping those two things in mind, it just does not make sense for any serious soccer player to be participating in CrossFit. It may be okay for the everyday person or non-athlete to participate in CrossFit. I still wouldn't really recommend it, because of the fact that even if you're not an athlete, you're probably participating in an exercise program because you want to make gains or improvements in certain physical abilities, and I don't think CrossFit is the best way to do that. But at least if you're a non-athlete, you're not setting yourself up for complete failure in terms of either injury, overtraining, or lack of gains or lack of improvement. Athletes and soccer players need improvement. Typically, they're operating in very short time windows in the preseason, where they want to improve strength and power and speed, or in the off season where they're trying to improve hypertrophy and strength, things like that. They don't have a lot of time, and they certainly can't afford to waste time doing training that's unproductive and ineffective. And of course, beyond that, any soccer player or any athlete should always be primarily concerned with minimizing, as much as possible, minimizing their risk of injury. And again, you just don't see that with CrossFit. So again, any soccer player that's considering participating in a CrossFit workout, I would highly recommend that you do not, and that you look into a program that stresses good technical execution and form of different resistance exercises, and also that involves a thorough science-based plan and periodization model that includes progressively overloading the body. So that's it for the Soccer Fitness Goals video blog this week. Hope you enjoyed it. As always, please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. We'll see you again next week, and until then, keep reaching your soccer fitness goals.